Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly fascinating story. It's about how a simple internet meme, literally a joke, exploded into a massive, highly controversial political movement. We're going to objectively analyze the rise of the Cockroach Junta Party and see exactly how the source material breaks down this wild internet phenomenon.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to trace this timeline logically across 5 parts. The unexpected spark that started it all, the party's rapid rise, how the memes turned into serious demands, the heavy censorship backlash, and finally, the concept of decentralized power.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, an unexpected catalyst. According to the source, this whole controversy actually started with a single spark from a highly publicized court hearing.
So on May 15, 2026, during a Supreme Court hearing, Chief Justice of India Surya Kant made a statement. He referred to certain unemployed youths who attacked the system as, quote, cockroaches. Now the source points out that this specific wording really shocked the nation. And look, even though the CJI clarified the very next day that he was only talking about people with fake degrees, and he even called the youth the pillars of a developed India, well, by that point, the damage was kinda already done. The internet had taken over.
Now you might be wondering, why did this specific comment spread like wildfire? Well, the source explains that this statement landed in a really volatile socio-political environment. The country was already dealing with the NEET exam paper leaks, high unemployment, and rising inflation. There was this deep, simmering frustration among the youth. So against this exact backdrop, the CGI's comment, regardless of its actual intent, just instantly connected with the public's raw anger.
And that frustration brings us right to Section 2, Rise of the Cockroach Party. Let's look at the immediate, entirely organic internet reaction to that court hearing.
Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds, because it's pretty crazy. May 15th, the comment is made. The literally next day, May 16th, Abhijit Deepke, a 30-year-old Indian student studying at Boston University, creates a meme page called the Cockroach Junta Party, or CJP. At first, it was purely a joke, just a funny internet trend. But within days, it experienced this explosive growth that absolutely nobody saw coming.
You really see the comedic absurdity of the whole thing when you look at their membership criteria. Unlike real, complex political parties, joining the CJP was hilariously easy. I mean, look at this. Are you lazy? Are you online for hours? Do you identify as a cockroach? If yes, congratulations, you're in. Religion, caste, gender, none of it mattered. It was very clearly just a piece of harmless satire.
But here's where the joke gets serious. 22 million. The source emphasizes that this Instagram meme page grew so fast, organically, that it hit 22 million followers. To put that into perspective, at one point, this single satirical page actually surpassed the online reach of the ruling BJP party itself. No way, right? A joke had become the biggest sensation on the Indian internet.
This brings us to a major pivot point in our story. Section 3, Memes Meet Serious Demands. The source explains this is where the satire suddenly gained some very real political teeth.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how a meme page suddenly released a highly serious manifesto tackling deep systemic issues. They laid out 5 core demands: no political seats for chief justices post-retirement, holding the Election Commission accountable under UBA for voting irregularities, a 50% reservation for women in parliament, canceling media licenses for large conglomerates, and a 20-year ban on politicians switching parties, also known as horse trading. So, behind the cockroach costumes and memes, the actual content was dead serious.
And they didn't just stop at a list of demands, they took action. The CJP mobilized its massive audience. When they launched a petition demanding the resignation of Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan over the NEET exam leaks, the video got over 1 crore, or 10 million views in just a single hour. The source highlights that this movement successfully channeled the raw frustration of millions of students, finally giving them a massive platform to raise their voices.
So what happens when a satire becomes that powerful? Well, that leads us to Section 4, Backlash, Censorship, and Defamation. The source does a deep dive into the heavy-handed institutional pushback that followed.
On May 21st, just 5 days after the movement started, the CJP's Twitter account was completely blocked in India. And the official reason given? National security threats. The source objectively questions this stark contrast. I mean, how does a simple meme page, where people are literally wearing digital cockroach costumes, suddenly become a threat to national security?
And this brilliantly illustrates how defamation narratives were pushed and how the source rebuts them with hard evidence. Abhijit Deepke was accused of being a secret agent for the AAP political party, or having shady foreign links. But as the rebuttal shows, his work history with AAP from 2020 to 2023 was entirely public. He even linked it in his own bio. Another massive claim was that the followers were all Pakistani bots, which the source counters using actual back-end analytics.
Yeah, there were viral claims spreading everywhere that 49% of the party's followers were from Pakistan. But looking at the real back-end demographic data shown by the source, you can clearly see that over 94% of the followers were actually based in India. It really highlights how false narratives were seemingly manufactured to try and discredit the entire movement.
The source makes a very impactful argument here. It juxtaposes the incredibly swift crackdown on a satirical meme page, treating it as a national threat, against the apparent inaction on actual documented issues like the exam paper leaks, corruption, and unemployment. This contrast really drives home the source's point that the authorities seemed more focused on suppressing internet humor than addressing the real underlying problems.
But things escalated far beyond just getting blocked online. The source neutrally reports some very severe real-world consequences. We're talking hacked accounts, website takedowns, and things crossed a major line when Abhijit's personal WhatsApp number was leaked. He and his family started receiving death threats. People actually showed up at his family members' homes in Maharashtra. So what started as an internet joke had literally resulted in real-world threats to people's lives.
Which brings us to our final section, the power of decentralization. Let's look at the broader conclusions the source draws about the future of digital activism and democracy.
You see, the source doesn't view this as just an isolated event. They argue that the CJP struggle actually reflects much broader systemic issues. The intimidation of political opposition, pressures from agencies like the ED or CBI, media suppression, and the general silencing of dissenting voices. Essentially, the creator suggests that the exact same toolkit used to pressure political opposition is now being deployed against an online meme page.
So the crucial point is, how does a digital movement survive this kind of pressure? Well, the source proposes a really fascinating counter-strategy. If the 22 million followers universally adopt the CJP profile picture and start posting the same content, it practically bypasses censorship. Think about it. If a movement is centralized to one account, you can just ban that account. But if the identity is decentralized and adopted by millions of everyday people, who exactly do the authorities block?
And that leaves us with this final provocative thought from the source material. Does the true strength of a movement ultimately lie in its decentralization? If people can seamlessly connect and become a unified digital voice without relying on a single leader or page, the future of protest could completely change. That's all for this explainer. Hopefully this breakdown helped you better understand this wild digital phenomenon. Definitely something to think about, right?